TV is a notoriously difficult industry to get into, and one where there's not a set career path. So starting at the beginning, imagine I'm a fresh-faced student about to graduate and would love to work in TV. Where do I start?
Well, I think it does seem very daunting if you're outside, but I think it's a combination of three things: tenacity, luck, and persistence. Where would I start? If I was keen to get into TV now, I would make a list and be very methodical in my approach. I'd make a list of all the TV companies whose programs I watched. I'd know their output inside out. I'd know who made the programs, and you can do this by looking at the end credits and looking in, certainly on the websites for the BBC programs, and they list their execs and the producers and the production company that makes the program. And I would write to those companies and ask to do work experience. I mean, I know very successful producers who were doing work experience while they were still at college. If you can't get a work experience placement, you can temp, you can get into different organisations in broadcasters themselves and indies by joining temping agencies that supply administrative, legal and secretarial staff. That's another option. And of course, the BBC has a number of new entrant schemes. They have the production talent pool, which they select about 300 people a year to come and do different jobs within the BBC, almost like an internal temp pool. They run the production trainee scheme and a number of apprenticeships, which are all listed on the BBC website. But I would just basically decide which area of television interested me in trying to get as much experience, paid and unpaid, as I could. Also sending ideas for programs or access or ideas for films is also a good way of getting the attention of a producer and showing them that you're thinking along the right lines.
The majority of our listeners are current students or recent graduates. And without wishing to upset a load of them, how important do you think it is to have a degree in terms of getting into TV? Are there any necessary qualifications, or is it just more, as you mentioned, about work experience?
I think for the most part, you're expected to have a degree to work in television. I don't think it particularly matters whether it's a degree in TV production. I think obviously if you've been to Bournemouth or Leeds or one of the centres of excellence or a skill set approved course, they're really, really useful and very practical and well thought of courses. But I think you can do, I've met and worked with researchers who've got a variety of backgrounds. So if you wanted to work in specialist factual areas like history or science, I think they're pretty key. It's pretty key to have a degree. But in other areas, I don't think the nature of the degree matters. But I do think that employers, whether they'll openly say it or not, do look for a secondary education and do look for people who've been through university.
You talk in Get In and Get On in TV, your book, about the value received from doing a postgrad in journalism. Do you recommend this route for everybody, or is it just more if you're interested in news and current affairs? Well, I think if you are interested in news and current affairs, it's a given that you have to have the appropriate training in journalism, and especially in broadcast journalism. And often now I see a lot of people, because I occasionally find people for current affairs, who've got sort of MAs from City University and such like. I think it's useful, and certainly my postgrad degree certainly helped me and stood me in good stead, because all the things that it taught me are transferable, because TV research is journalism. You need to understand how to find a story and characters and tell a story. You need to understand how to write, how a narrative unfolds, how to hook the viewer, how to interview somebody, and those are all techniques and the training that I received on my course as a journalist. And so I do think it was really, really useful to me, and probably one of the best things I did, because after I think a year in TV, I was writing scripts, and I think I would have found it a lot harder had I not done my news writing and different writing courses. I think also writing is really underrated. People don't realise that they need to be able to write, but it's an essential skill for development. Being able to write, it's an essential skill for being able to write a script or to think of a narrative, to write voiceover. So it's certainly something that comes in handy later on. And actually, there are a lot of people in TV who don't know how to write. Certainly, people who write well are in demand, as well as being able to make beautifully visual and creative-looking films. That's a skill that'll be able to stick with you for your career, no matter where you take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So recognising that the range of jobs within the term television is huge, from in front of the camera to behind to production, editorial, technical, Is there a common set of skills and qualities which you think tie these all together?
Yes and no. I think I couldn't really say, because I think each job that you're talking about there, whether it's presenting or technical and craft or, the production management side of TV or the editorial, they're all very different skills, and you need to have a certain skill set and certain predisposition to succeed in those roles. The only thing I would say in terms of qualities, I think I could say that there are, a handful of qualities that you need that are universal across the board. And they're more about personality and the way someone is as a person rather than something that can be learned. Though, of course, you can always learn how to do certain things. One, I would say, is that you have to be incredibly creative, whether you're creative in the use of how to shoot something, if you're a cameraman, or edit something, but also how something might look as a director, or how you tell the story, or how you use your budget, and how you stretch your resources. Being creative is key, I would say. Being visual is key. Being collegiate and cooperative and being able to work in a team and lead a team and recognize other people's strengths and weaknesses. Being resilient and being able to cope with the long hours and under pressure and in the face of constant problem solving. I think that's key. Well, even as a freelance, you have to be resilient because you might not get every job you go for, especially in the beginning. And you need to be able to bounce back and carry on. And that's the same with development, whether you're coming up with ideas and they're being rejected, or whether you're in production and you can't get access to the thing that you need to get access to, or to persuade those contributors to take part, or it's a constant set of unfolding problems, and being able to deal with them and think creatively and laterally, as well as not be frightened and put off. Those are sort of key skills. And being flexible, because TV isn't a traditional industry where you'll have traditional hours and 2 weeks off a year and paid holidays, and it's quite, you have to be prepared and understand and be happy to be freelance, because there's no job security, there's no safety net in some ways, and you have to be resourceful and good at managing your own finances and being prepared to win your own business and market yourself as a brand, so you continually are employed and you plot your own career path without a formal structure of progression.